With Justin Trudeau's growing unpopularity, it is very likely that the Conservatives win the 2025 election. However, this is Canada, so there's a major difference between winning, gaining a minority, and destroying your opponent, sending him to the shadow realm where Michael Gennadiev lives, and gaining a majority. To do this, there's one key area that Poilievre needs to hammer home on, and I believe he's the only one who can do it within the Conservative Party, and this is the carbon tax. One, running on an outright axe the carbon tax, abolish it, get rid of it, no quarter platform. But more importantly, he is the chosen one in the way because he can explain what the carbon tax is to Canadians and why it is bad. The reason it needs to be explained outright how it works is because the narrative that Conservatives use around green energy, climate, whatever, carbon taxing is losing rhetoric, and it's wrong. The Conservatives of Andrew Scheer will peddle the idea that, you know what, I guess we love the environment, but what can we really do when China and India are so big? What does it matter if we have carbon taxing? It only makes such a small, minuscule difference. That's a losing message because it implies that the carbon tax is actually making a positive difference on these environmental nonsense metrics. It's wrong. The carbon tax does not help the environment. It does not do what it's claiming to do. In fact, probably does the opposite. Now, this is where Pierre Poilievre comes in. He needs to make a 5-minute, 6-minute video. He could be walking down the street. He could be like, look, I live in a house of wood. Wood is Canadian. Well, let's tell you a story about Lester B. Pearson, right? That could be a great opening minute. Lester B. Pearson sat on a horse, and here's why carbon pricing is bad. He needs to make this case very clearly. He needs to explain what the carbon tax is. It's not a price on pollution. It's a price on all energy, right? Gas, oil, all of this. And this does not help. He needs to explain to people that energy is an inelastic good. So in economics, elastic goods can be easily substituted. Very, very, sensitive to price, right? If, party supplies, goes up like a lot and it costs, those silly hats are now $17 to buy, well, not a lot of people are going to buy them because it's super elastic. Like, we'll just skip the silly hats, right? Energy is not. People still need to go from point A to point B. So you need to still put gas in your car and go to point A to point B. There's very little you could do to like slightly reduce your gas usage. Like, you still need to go from point A to point B. Now, people might think that's the only part of it, but it's a whole other thing, right? So the people who don't have cars can be like, ha 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 ha, oh, it's for the rich who have cars. Well, no. Every single product needs gas at some point. Food? Do you eat food? Right? The energy required to grow the food is a lot. So if you increase the overall price of energy, growing the food, harvesting the food, and then transporting the food from point A to point B. Every product needs to be transported from point A to point B. And if you increase those prices, like downriver the supply chain, like that makes the price of literally everything go up. So Poilievre needs to succinctly make the case to Canadians that the carbon tax does not work because it does not significantly disincentivize whatever it does. It also creates a system where everything in the world gets more expensive. So it hurts people on the fringes, right? It's the upper middle class Toronto urbanites, rich Torontonians that can, suffer the few, I'm a fancy lawyer, so I can suffer the fact that, everything at the grocery store is like $1 or so more expensive, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But when that thing is $1 or more expensive for every item you buy, and you're living on, the brink of poverty, carbon tax. He needs to make the case that the carbon tax literally increases the price of every single thing you buy. And then he needs to go on, right, and say the mentality behind the liberal carbon tax, if you think of it, it is to force people into poverty. That's literally the design of the carbon tax. It's to say, there's a middle class family that lives in Oakville or whatever, and the mom and dad need to drive, 20 kilometers into work in the morning. If we make them so poor that they can't afford their car, they'll have to take a bike. And the climate change has happened or been solved or whatever it is, right? This is the type of framing of the carbon tax, which is its actual framing. If you look at what the Liberals say about it, it's to disincentivize people and make cars expensive so people can't have them. So great, you need to wake up 3 hours early and bike into work, whatever. This is the case Poilievre needs to make, because Canadians, even the center-right ones, want to believe, like Ralph Wiggum, like, I'm helping. There's some lady who works in HR at a downtown firm, and she has 2 cats and no life, and she's like a 37-year-old millennial, and she rides her bike to work, and that's how she saves the literal world. She's saving the world by riding the... You can never reason with this person. But the average Canadian wants to believe that we're good people, that we're helping, that on these climate problems, we're trying our best. That's what we want to believe. Poilievre needs to disabuse people of that. He needs to make the case that it's not helping, it can't help, it's hurting the poor, and it's like maliciously designed to make middle-class people poor. He needs to do this, he needs to do his thing, walk down, because Canadians will vote for just a little bit of helping. I'm just trying to help a little bit. They need to understand that they're not helping. They're hurting poor people, and they can't do. And he can sit down in a house. He's like, and if Lester B. Pearson had to ride a bicycle, he couldn't have gone to Egypt to negotiate the Suez Canal crisis, and that's against... Do that. Walk down a thing, be near a park, whatever you do. Poilievre needs to sit down, explain that the liberal carbon pricing scheme literally makes everything more expensive. And if he comes in and axes the carbon tax entirely, the cost of living for you goes down significantly day one. Like, the price of everything you buy literally goes down, and you have more money. If he can make this case to people and have it understood that the Liberals' plan does not help, it hurts both people and the environment, and he will come in and get rid of this, then he wins in a landslide.